What's up, everyone? It's Cool Trainer Zach, and today I'm going to talk about 12 cards from the Scarlet and Violet era that I think have huge potential over the coming months and years. So first things first, let's talk about my thesis here. I think that there is currently a ton of opportunity in the Scarlet and Violet era cards, specifically in the illustration rares, special illustration rares, and some of the promos. So these are going to be the full art cards that people are really in love with right now. Absolutely beautiful cards like the Venusaur EX that I have up on the screen here. And particularly, I think that being able to get these cards graded in a 10 is the opportunity right now. That's what I've been doing for myself, and I'm going to talk about why I think that this is going to be a great strategy moving forward. There's really a couple main things behind this strategy. One is that it is so hard to pull 10s in Scarlet and Violet. I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with the print quality in Scarlet and Violet has really gone downhill. And so some of the vendors I talked to recently, they said they think that like the pull rates for 10s is somewhere around 30% in the Scarlet and Violet era. In past eras, we had much better print quality. It was a lot easier to hit a 10. These days, that is just not the case. And I found this out for myself at the most recent show that I went to. I was looking for 10s from Scarlet and Violet, and there just weren't that many to be found. So, one, it's really hard to pull a 10 from Scarlet and Violet. Two, huge nostalgia factor. So in this set, we have some really beautiful artwork coupled with classic characters like the Venusaur I have up on the screen. I think that this is always going to be a good play. Me personally, I have a really strong connection to the original 151 Pokemon characters, and so a lot of my collecting has been really focused around these characters. So when you couple that nostalgia factor with how hard it is to pull 10s from this era, I think that there's a really strong case to be made there, that there's going to be a lot of value created. And then one of the last things here is like the artwork on some of these cards is so gorgeous. They really stand out, and these cards are something that I feel is really special. And so we're going to dive into some of the cards that are fan favorites, like the Venusaur I have up on the screen here. If you played the Gen 1 Pokemon games and you rocked the Bulbasaur straight out the gate, you were in love with some of these characters. And I'm also going to talk about some cards that are a little more under the radar, haven't totally popped off yet, but I still think have a really, really strong case to be made for why these things are going to appreciate in value in the coming months and years. So let's dive in. First things first, Venusaur EX. This is probably a surprise to nobody. I mean, look at this card. Absolutely gorgeous, full art, classic character, just such a good looking card. And right now, if we take a look at the price in Pokedata here, it's sitting at about $170 in a 10. I got mine, which I just need to flex real quick. I got mine in a 10 at a show recently. Paid about $150, and these are going for about $40 raw. So when I think forward, do I feel like the raw price of this card is really going to go down that much in the coming months and years? No, I think more people are going to want to own Venusaurs than not, especially when you look at how gorgeous this card is. And when you couple that with just how hard it is to find these in a 10, the fact that you can get into these for about $170, which is about a 4x premium over raw. 4x premium is really pretty low, as we're going to see as we go through this list. To me, that just feels like a screaming opportunity. So that's why I went ahead and got one for myself, and why I think that's a good opportunity. Moving right along. So I'm a huge Snorlax fan. I remember I had the Holo Snorlax back in the day. I think when I was in second grade was the first time I got that card. And so I had to get the Pokemon Center exclusive promo Snorlax here. I think this is an awesome card for a few reasons. One is that we actually have a couple other Pokemon in the scene here. So we have like a Pidgey hanging out on top of the sleeping Snorlax. We have Diglett cruising up, popping up from underground to see what's going on over here. So just a really fun scene. I love it when the artwork incorporates other Pokemon, and it's not just the main character from the card. And again, this is just such a classic character. I mean, who doesn't love Snorlax? Like, I'm a huge Snorlax fan myself. And then when we go ahead and look at the price history, and Note that this is for the Pokemon Center exclusive, so it's actually not showing up in the screenshot here, but there's a stamp right here that says Pokemon Center exclusive. That was only available from the Pokemon Center in the Elite Trainer box, and so that's actually the one that I collected in a 10 right here, because I thought that was a great opportunity. We see that it's sitting currently at about $110, which is, man, that's like not even a 3x premium over raw. So, this could break one of two ways. Either the raw price could go way down, and then there's a bigger delta between the 10s and the raw, or the 10s are just going to get more sought after. We see that this thing opened up around $180. There's always some FOMO right when the graded stuff starts hitting the market. Took a huge dip. Man, people were buying 10s for like $40 pretty recently. Absolutely Chad move if you scored this for $39.99 last month. And now the card's sitting at about $110 if you want to hit it in a 10. Again, I think this is like a no-brainer. Classic character, really hard to get 10s in these cards, and the premium over raw is just like so negligible. So moving right along, we have our Alakazam. Again, full art, super cool scene here. Really cool to see, like, basically see our Pokemon like in different kind of interesting environments like this. I thought this house, or like, quasi laboratory that he's in, seems like really cool. Again, the full art, super beautiful, light coming through the window. Like, what's not to like about this? And as someone who collected Pokemon as a kid, this character was so cool if you could rip this for yourself, or if you traded for it, or bought it from a card shop. Like, getting an Alakazam was just like such a Chad pull back in the day. And maybe that's just my nostalgia, but man, I love this card. So I had to do it for myself. Got my Alakazam EX. I know it's a little hard to see with the blur there, but had to get this in a 10. Artwork is so cool. And we see that this thing, in terms of price, it opened up, the 10 started hitting the market about almost $150. Dipped down under 100. You could pick these up in the 80s. I actually picked mine up for 85 off of eBay, which felt like a huge score to me because it immediately ran up, and now it's sitting at $115 ish. And then that's going to be like that's going to be like a 4x ish premium over raw. So far the cards that we've been looking at, we're usually seeing the 10s trading 4 to 5 times, maybe 3 to 5 times above the raw price. I still think that that's a super reasonable level, and we can see that for the most part these cards are still trading below their all-time highs. We haven't seen like a huge spike up, a huge run up in the cards we've looked at so far. So I still feel like this is really in the value zone. That's definitely how I felt. Picking mine up for 85, I was like, this is a no-brainer. Seems like a ton of value there. And that one turned out to be right, because 10s are now trading at $115. So here's one that actually doesn't have any price history for the 10s, at least not that's showing up in Pokedata here. I haven't checked eBay as of today to see if any 10s have started hitting the market, but I think this Chansey is going to be an absolutely sought-after card for a few reasons. One is super classic character. If I think back to the vintage like base set, if you have that Chansey, which is really hard to keep those in good condition because of how white the card is, so it shows blemishes like really easy. That Chansey is like an absolute grail of a card these days, and I don't think that love for that character or that sort of that aura around the card has really diminished. And so I think that Chansey as a character is always going to be a fan favorite. And then we look at this card. We have the full art. I believe this is just an illustration rare. I don't think it's a special illustration rare, but let me know in the comments if I'm misremembering this. So we have the full art. And then, like I was saying with the Snorlax, who happens to be in this scene, we have so many additional Pokemon in this card. It just makes it such a fun scene. We got Snorlax taking a nap in the corner. It looks like we have Blissey behind the desk over here. We have a Bellsprout. We have Psyduck. Not sure what's going on. Being confused right here. We have Ditto chilling down here in the corner. And then it's just a fun scene, Chansey's like kind of running and looking a little like a little frantic here, losing this stack of whatever it is she's carrying. So what a fun card. What's not to love about this? Full art. And this thing has actually been trading pretty strongly. I think when I was sorting the Twilight Masquerade set by price, this is one of the most expensive raw cards. Actually, we can go back and just take a look real quick. It's in the it's in the fourth row. So okay, this is not one of the most expensive raw cards, but this is a card that I think has so much potential. It's a little bit slept on. I mean, obviously everyone's like super psyched on the Greninja EX, and obviously this EV has been super popular lately. But in terms of kind of under the radar cards that I think are getting some love but deserve a lot more love and have a lot of potential to increase in value, I think this Chansey is one of them. So I'm all over this card. Me personally, I'm waiting for it to hit the market in a 10 so I can just buy it outright. I know people have been trying to get this thing graded, and they keep coming back with 8s and 9s, and it's a little disappointing. So I'm going to hold out for a 10, and see what the price is going to look like when those start hitting the market. Moving right along, it's our guy Psyduck. Love Psyduck. Had to get this in a 10 for myself. Again, classic character. I think this art is just so cool. Like the lighting here, the scenery, it's just really beautiful. Classic character. Psyduck's over here looking a little bit silly. What's not to love about this? And we can see Psyduck's actually trading at a pretty strong premium over raw. A lot of the 10s opened up trading and they immediately dumped from their all-time highs. It looks like Psyduck's all-time high was around $74, and now we're sitting at about 62. Not a huge dip, but the premium over raw, this is telling me, yeah, people are interested in getting into this card in a 10, because we're looking at about $10 down here, $62 up here, a little more than a 6x premium. So I think that indicates pretty strong demand. Psyduck's also trading just under all-time highs. So I think this is a card that could definitely make some moves. And again, with the classic character and the beautiful artwork, I just see so much potential there. So now we have Miriam. I've been super interested in this card just based on the artwork, to be honest. I don't have a strong connection to this character, but I just think that this artwork, specifically like the pinks and purples, super beautiful, and there's so much action happening in the card here. So much motion, really cool scenery, and then we have the little Easter egg back here. It looks like maybe a Pichu, or maybe it's supposed to be a Pikachu, not sure, chilling in the background there. So I think that makes this a super interesting card, just super pretty. I'd really like to score this in a 10. I don't have it as of yet, and the price has really been kind of running away. So this thing, which is from, I think, the base set, yeah. This is one of the 10s that opened up, trading right around $100. Did a little dip here, but then since then has been kind of up and to the right. So now we're sitting at almost $110 to get this in a 10, which is about a 3x premium over raw. So to see this card trading, $32 raw, there's some pretty strong demand there. I mean, that's a lot for an ungraded card, right? And then, but we're only seeing the 10s trading at like a 3x premium to raw. So I think that's a huge opportunity. Even though I would have liked to get into this back here in like maybe the $80, $90 range before it ran up to 110, I still think that's a pretty solid opportunity. I love this Slowpoke. Super fun card. Look how silly this guy is. Really cool scenery. I have a thing myself for just like the interesting kind of scenery, especially when it's in these like towns, or like we were looking at the Psyduck, and Psyduck's in the middle of a really cool forest with super fun lighting. Slowpoke, peeking his head out over here. Again, another classic character. What's not to love about this? Super lovable. And some of the craziest price action of any of the cards on this list. So I've been talking about, a lot of times the 10s, they start hitting the market, they're trading at all-time highs, they dump, and then they slowly kind of grind back up. Slowpoke's been a completely different story here. So Slowpoke, started trading around $70 in the 10, pretty sharp dump, all the way down to 37. So this has been a pretty volatile card. And then we kind of found an equilibrium. It was trading around $50 for most of February and March. And then I honestly don't know what happened at the end of March, but boom, all of a sudden the market decided this card in a 10 is worth $120. So you can just see this huge spike up for the 10s. I should go back and look. It's like, did something happen with Slowpoke? Was there some sort of event that happened? I don't know. And so Slowpoke was trading, well above $100, 115, 120. Has since kind of leveled out at that $80 range, which is about a 10x premium over raw. So there's still a lot of premium being baked into this 10. This is probably the highest of any card on the list so far, where it's trading 10 times raw. But the fact that, in absolute terms, you can get this character, which clearly has a lot of demand for the 10, for around $80. Going forward, even if this thing declines, and you end up being able to get it for 60 or 70, I still think this is a great buy. Moving right on, this one should surprise nobody, and the chart here tells the whole story. This Raichu, so fun. Again, a classic character, a really novel kind of artwork. Raichu taking a nap on the bed. Looks like Raichu's also using the bed backwards, so he's got his head down here and his butt on the pillow. So that's a funny one. And just such a fun artwork, super cute. And again, this is like just a really classic character. And when we take a look at the chart, this is one of the cards that surprisingly, it did kind of the opposite when it first started hitting the market in 10s, where it started trading around $120 and then immediately shot up to almost 300, right? So normally we see cards that kind of start up here, boom, it's down into the right, as the FOMO kind of wears off and the market kind of finds an equilibrium. This one's been a lot more volatile, and it seems like every time we dip down into this like $170 range, people just start buying it right back up, starts going back up to that $300 range. So I've never found personally a good opportunity to get into this card. I would love to get it in a 10. Right now it's trading about $288, but you can look, this thing's been on a rip since April. We went 175 to almost 300. And if I take a look at some of the last solds, just to see what it's been going for most recently, yeah, we cracked 300. Someone bought this for 325. So, this has been on an absolute rip since back in April. I don't expect it to slow down anytime soon. And then when we look at the premium over raw, this is a $40 card raw. So to see that we're sitting at $300, we're at a pretty steep premium over raw, and we can see that raw has really been taking off as well. So I think a lot more potential to come for this card. It's clearly a market favorite. This is definitely one on the list that is not under the radar. This is a poorly kept secret that this card is going to go places. So I couldn't make this list without including this Magikarp, because look how gorgeous this card is. There's so much going on here, kind of the rainbow color scheme. Magikarp, such a beloved character from the original 151 set. We also have like the sleeper kind of undercover Gyarados in the background here, which is super cool. I actually didn't realize that at first. And what can I say about this card that hasn't been said? It's trading at almost $700 in a 10. This has got to be, one of the most coveted cards from the Scarlet and Violet era. This is from the Paldea Evolved set. And we see that, you basically never had a chance with this thing. It started trading at around 330. And you would expect to see, okay, it opens up, the FOMO wears off, boom, we get a buying opportunity, and then, hopefully it bounces back. This thing has been up and to the right, and then there was kind of this inflection point right around the beginning of March where it just started on this rip. Looks like we broke 700 somewhat recently, and now we're sitting at about $680. The raw card, that's a triple-digit raw card. We're at $120 for this thing raw, so obviously a super, super beloved card. For me, it's feeling kind of expensive here. I don't know where this thing is ultimately going to go. We have a pretty substantial premium over raw. I think it'd be worth taking a look if we could see it back in the $500 range, but I just don't know if it's ever going to happen. So that'll be one to keep an eye on. This Sudowoodo, I thought that this is one of the one of the newer characters, where at least not in the original 151. I just thought this artwork was really beautiful. The way they used the light, how Sudowoodo is kind of a sleeper here, so really not front and center. It's kind of like the Slowpoke card we were looking at, where Slowpoke is just kind of poking his head out of the shop there on the side, and is part of like a larger, pretty scene like this. I think that this is a really pretty card. A little bit slept on because, this is not like the chase card from the Paldea Evolve set by any means. But we could see that, at one point this was trading at $250 solidly for over a month for the 10s. Since then it's cooled off a little bit. We're trading at about $150. So that's a little rough if you were buying it up here. And then the premium to raw is actually like really substantial. So let's call raw $10 right now, and we're sitting at 150 for the 10s. Oof, that's a 15x premium over raw. So one opportunity could be, hey, I can buy this thing raw. I could buy, 5 of these raw for $50 in hopes that I can, hit a 10 on one of them. But like we've talked about, hitting 10s in the Scarlet and Violet era is just really tough. And so I think that's why there's a lot of premium baked in here. If you want a guaranteed 10, you're going to pay 15 times the raw price. So I don't know. In my view, I think this thing could come down a little bit more, but obviously it's like there's just a lot of love for this card. It's been basically impossible to get it under $100 for a 10. And so if you can find this for a reasonable price in a 10, I think that has a lot of long-term potential there. So last 2 cards on the list. This one probably doesn't surprise anybody. This Ghastly, super cool. I love when they have multiple Pokemon, like I've said for some of the other cards. Multiple Pokemon in the scene. It looks like we have a Haunter over here hanging out. And then, the Gengar, this guy I think is what drives a lot of premium in this card, is because we have the Gengar, and that's just such a popular character. And then, we also have like our Meowth kind of peeking out around the corner right here, trying to see what's going on. At least I'm pretty sure that's Meowth. Pretty sure. Tell me if I'm wrong. But man, what a cool card. Super cool use of lighting. Just the color scheme with this kind of neon yellow, this blue, and then all the purple going on for the ghosts. Just really, really cool. And who else thinks it's cool? The market. Right now, this is trading at $166 for the 10s. But it's really been on a steep decline. It opened up trading back in April around $300. So this is more of that classic kind of FOMO dump that I would expect to see, but you don't always get, as we've talked about, where this thing opened up trading above $300. That's basically been cut in half at this point. But the raw card has actually been kind of diverging here. So since May, it started out at 22. Yeah, we've been marching up to like 27. So a little bit of an increase in the interest for the raw card as the 10 has kind of been declining. We're still looking at a 27 to 166. You're gonna make me do some public math here. Call it a 4 to 5x premium. That's actually pretty reasonable, in my opinion. So I think that I'm actually gonna look for this in a 10 at this point, because I think that this has cooled off to the point where I wouldn't expect this to go a whole lot lower. And the fact that we're only 4 to 5x, if I'm doing my math right, we're maybe 5.5x above the raw price. This is actually starting to look like a buy to me. So I'm going to be all over this card. Don't be surprised if in my next video I'm flexing a PSA 10 slab of the Ghastly. So last card on the list. This might be a little bit of a head scratcher to you, but let me explain. The Pidgey. So actually, I think this whole evolution series from Obsidian Flame, so the Pidgey, the Pidgeotto, and the Pidgeot, I think that these artworks are absolutely killer. Really different than some of the other cards we've looked at on this list. This really heavy color blocking, really kind of simple illustration. But again, we have multiple Pokemon in the card in some fun little positions here. We see a foot sticking out over here. Pidgey's kind of looking at us from behind the bush here. Got his butt up in the air. Just a super fun card, and I love this artwork style. It's really kind of a departure from, if we actually just flip back over to our Ghastly, this is a very busy card. I also love it. Like, I love the style here. I love how much is going on. The colors are, a little bit more muted. Whereas if we come back to our Pidgey, just really strong color blocking, just a much cleaner and kind of simple card. I think the artwork here is super cool. And you know my thesis that these classic characters are always going to be some of the most nostalgic and some of the most sought after cards. So even though Pidgey was like a total throwaway Pokemon, like in the in the vintage sets when you'd rip a Pidgey and be like, okay, whatever, or Pidgey would be one of the first things you catch in Gen 1. I think that this card is just super fun, and if you can pick this up in a 10, right now it's trading right around $40. I mean, how can I not get this in a 10, right? The interesting thing here is that it's been more or less trading sideways, so we didn't see the FOMO dump where this thing started hitting the market in the graded stuff, and it fell off a cliff. So it opened up trading right around 35. We're trading right around 45 now, so it's gone up $10. It's been kind of volatile, kind of trading in a range between, call it 50 and 30. But I just think that there's, so much to love about this card. And the fact that you can pick up a 10 of one of the most classic characters in Pokemon in a super cool artwork like this for $45 plus shipping. I mean, come on. Or you can get it at a show and probably get it for a little bit less and not pay shipping. I mean, that is a no-brainer to me. So I love this card. This is definitely on my buying list, and I might go buy this right after I finish recording this video. So that's my list of 12. Let me know in the comments what you think. What should have made this list that I didn't put on here, or what's on the list and you're like, that has no business being on the list. I don't see any potential in that card. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'd love feedback on my thesis around, why 10s from the Scarlet and Violet era, specifically in these really nostalgic OG characters. My thesis is that these are going to do really well. But you let me know what you think. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will catch you next time. Peace.